right, good morning. It's like barely still morning. I am going at this again. Take two. I didn't have my mic going on the first time, like a total doofus. So we're gonna roll through this a little quick. I've spent the morning at a toddler soccer game, watching a little bit of amoeba ball as the toddlers just chase each other around and chase the ball in a big blob. I also had to fix a toilet, of course, because the people that owned the house before me, man, they thought they could do some DIY. Ooh, buddy, like just watch this old house for a video on how to do something, and if that intimidates you, then like don't do it and call someone to come do it. Anywho, we'll run through this pretty quick. This is week 3. I'm Rob Bauer. I'm the econometrician behind Beta Rank, an advanced stats model for college football. The data that you will see today, the overall offensive and defensive statistics, as well as the team ranks, are still weighted in with some projection data from the projection model. However, the drive efficiency, explosive drives, negative drives, and play efficiency are not. So they are controlling for opponent and field position, but given the small number of games we have in, still they're somewhat volatile. But they do give us an idea of how teams have performed in the limited games that they have. So think of them as directional rather than exact. With that said, I do call it a little bit of the doldrums. We're sort of out of the period. This weekend feels like a little bit of a letdown. There's not any major non-conference matchups that you think might affect the national title picture. But it's a good weekend nonetheless. The nice thing about college football, though, and I think NFL fans do have somewhat of a point when they point out that, college football doesn't always have a great matchup every week. What is true about college football, though, is there are so many games. There are bound to be a number of great games and upsets and unexpected games every week, and this will likely be one of those weeks as well. With that said, I'm going to try to run through this quick because my kid's up there eating Cheerios and killing a little time. And to save us having an interruption with a 5-year-old, we're going to just roll on through this. So this is Florida and Alabama. Nick Saban versus Dan Mullen. The offense for Alabama right now is chugging along, number 2 overall. Their raw metrics, they're not quite raw, but they're modeled metrics right now without any weight in them. Drive efficiency is excellent, completing long drives. Explosive drives also very, very good, putting together really big plays to put up points. Play efficiency is good. They really excel at negative drives, not giving up 3-and-outs or turnovers. Big run pass split. We've seen this for a little bit with Bama. They definitely, for the past 3 years, have really leaned into throwing the ball in order to put up big offensive numbers. This Florida defense, Todd Grantham's your DC here. Bill O'Brien's your OC at Alabama, right? For right now, until he gets through the Nick Saban, rehabilitation school for bad coaching boys. Anyway, Todd Grantham's your DC at Florida. The projection number, that's waiting in here has them at 28. They really struggled a little bit last season defensively. Their drive efficiency, however, is pretty good, preventing teams from putting up long drives. That explosive drives number a little bit concerning as you come into play, where you're playing Alabama. Their play efficiency number is not great. They really struggle at negative drives, not forcing enough 3-and-outs and turnovers. And again, all of those metrics, though they are a little volatile, are still controlling for opponent and field position. Effective rush, they do have a decent run pass split here, not necessarily the one you want coming into facing Alabama now. So their pass defense has been, definitely been a little bit more suspect than their rush defense. I do want to call out that for Beta Rank, I don't do offensive effective rush and pass at the margin. I think that's the wrong way to do it. For offense, I think if you run out a passing efficiency metric and you have Navy near the top of it, I think you're doing it wrong. I think, for me, you need to figure out like the question you want to answer is like, how is Alabama going to put up points? Not what would Alabama do best if they, given if they had the ball in their choice between run and pass. And so here I'm trying to answer it that way. For defense, though, they don't have a choice, and that's the important thing, and the why I do it the way I do it. Defense does not have a choice, so they do need to be calculated at the margin. And so for them, because I think offense, pretending that there's no sort of memory there or there's no carryover effects from prior decisions, I think is a little nonsensical. Anywho, if you want to stop Alabama, you need to stop the pass. Defense is calculated at the margin. So for right now, I mean, in the short number of games we have, Florida's been a little more susceptible at the pass than they are against the run. Flip it over to the other side of the football. Alabama's defense right now, the numbers are getting held up a little bit by the projection. I'm interested to see how they come out of this game rating in particular, though, on the rest of these metrics, because they are going to have a very good defense. So, Pete Golding's your DC here. Their drive efficiency numbers, not great comparatively. They've struggled a little bit with explosive drives. So these numbers will get cleaned up considerably as more data comes in. But they have been very, very, very good at negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. No big run pass split for them here. Florida's offense comes in again a little buoyed by the projection model themselves. They had an excellent offense last season. They're going to have a 2-quarterback system in play here today. They've struggled to put together long drives to put up points, but they've been pretty good at putting up big plays and also pretty good at avoiding 3 and outs and turnovers and doing bad things or letting the defense do bad things to you. Their effective rush number is significantly better than their effective pass. That's something to keep an eye on here as they take on Alabama. They might be playing from behind and they might need to throw the ball to get there. We're going to finish this a little bit before the 1 minute mark. I'm getting yelled at by a 5-year-old right now, so hopefully we don't have to do a quick pause. This is Cincinnati and Indiana. Trouble with doing live TV and being a single parent on your parent time. I'm going to have to pause this and come back, and I appreciate everyone doing Twitch, and I will try to be as fast as I can to go address what's going on with the toddler. Whew, we had a minor Cheerios issue. All right. Cincinnati at Indiana. In comes Cincinnati. Luke Fickell's your head coach here for Cincinnati. Your head coach, Tom Allen, for Indiana. This is potentially a big game for Cincinnati. it's still tough to project this team in as a playoff team, but the offense has made big step forwards under Mike Denbrock, particularly in the last 2 years. I saw him live 2 years ago. They really struggled to throw the football. But if you see here, thus far this season, they've been pretty explosive. They've struggled a bit comparatively with drive efficiency, putting together long drives to put up points, negative drives. I mean, relative to their explosive plays, they could put in a little bit of work on. But they've been a little bit better throwing the football than they've been running the ball. That's unusual a little bit for this team comparatively. The defense for Indiana carried them last season. The offense really struggled. So much so that their defensive coordinator, Kane Womack, got a head coaching job. And so they've got a new defensive coordinator in place, Charlton Warren, who came over from Georgia. They've been decent so far this season defensively. Drive efficiency, 40 right there. You know, they've done a reasonably good job containing long drives, and then can also, I mean, reasonably good containing big plays. They've been better against the run than they've been against the pass, though. That's something to keep an eye on here. If Cincinnati is able to throw the ball with Desmond Ridder and able to air it out a little bit, Indiana potentially could struggle. Flip it around on the other side of the ball. Nick Sheridan's your offensive coordinator for Indiana. They've really struggled. If you've kept an eye on Fresno State and Kalen DeBoer, they've done a really good job offensively. You can see why Indiana was pretty good offensively with him as the OC. Nick Sheridan, I'm not sure he makes it out of this year as the OC if they don't really turn it around. They've struggled to put together long drives. They've struggled to put together big plays, too many 3-and-outs. And really with the quarterback talent they have, it's a little inexcusable to be where they are with this run-pass split. Flip it around. Cincinnati, we do expect to continue to have a very good defense. Mike Treshell's your DC, replacing Marcus Freeman, who's off to Notre Dame. But they've, you know, thus far they've got a little work to do. At least in as more data comes in, I should say. Like there's more data certainly to come in. 105 in drive efficiency here. They're better at containing explosive drives and certainly at putting up, you know, negative plays, you know, forcing the offense into 3-and-outs, turnovers, moving backwards. No big run pass split to keep an eye on here. This is, like I said, this is a big game for Cincinnati here. We've got it at Cincinnati 57% win, 57.9 win probability, and a 1.94 favorite on the road at Indiana. Pretty big game, you know, really too, to set them up for next week. They need to win this week to make next week, you know, against Notre Dame, a really big game for them. Where if they're able to really, you know, go in there and beat the Irish, they'll be in the conversation as much as I think any group of 5 team has been in the conversation in the last couple of years. All right. This is a fun one. Brian Harson's your Auburn coach. Of course, James Franklin is your Penn State coach here. Mike Bobo is your offensive coordinator for this Auburn team. They profile pretty well in limited data so far. So number 6 in drive efficiency, putting together long drives to put up points. Number 6 in explosive drives as well. They've been able to put together some big plays. You know, avoiding negative drives somewhat well as well. You know, no 3-and-outs, not as many. I shouldn't say no. That was not as many 3-and-outs and turnovers. Big run pass split, and that's what's really interesting to see coming into this game, because, you know, Bo Nix, if they have to throw in order to be able to get it going here, you know, Bo Nix has certainly struggled with that in the past. Defensively, it's Brent Pryce, your defensive coordinator for Penn State. They've had a pretty good year so far. I mean, we've got them at 15. Some of that's the projection data. Where they have struggled a little bit, teams have been able to drive, you know, on them in the limited data so far. They certainly did a really good job shutting down Wisconsin and then Ball State. They're doing a good job containing explosive drives, excellent at creating chaos, at creating turnovers and 3-and-outs. Somewhat of a run pass split here, a little bit worse against the run. I'm interested to see how this shakes out, of course, after this game here. But this Penn State defense looks to be pretty good. It's going to give us a real idea, I think, where this Auburn offense is going to shake out as we come into SEC play. You flip it around. Mike Yursich is your offensive coordinator for Penn State. It's his first year. He replaced Kurt Chiraka, who didn't work out, who I thought would work out. So, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt. They struggled offensively last season. Really, I mean, they weren't that great defensively either, but offensively, they were also pretty bad. Looking for a bounce back year here. It's interesting to see. I think one of the numbers that jumps out to me is actually all the way down there. They've started to pick it up, throwing the ball a bit more with Yurcich there. I think that's a good sign that, it is starting to set in his offense, that they are starting to get going a little bit. We'll see here against Auburn. What they have done well is they've avoided negative drives, avoiding 3 and outs and turnovers, put together some solid drive efficiency for long drives and points, as well as big plays. They're going to get an Auburn defense coached by Derek Mason, former Vanderbilt head coach and Stanford defensive coordinator. They've shined. They've struggled a little. Again, like small data. So they've struggled a little bit on drive efficiency, right? So teams have been able to drive-ish against this team. This is all relative, of course, but what they've locked down really well thus far is, not giving up big plays and then forcing 3 and outs and turnovers on the offense. Not a big run pass split for them. I'm excited and interested to see this matchup too. I want to see where Penn State's offense might be. I don't want to say the Buckeyes look super vulnerable, but if you can score points, you can hang with Ohio State. Their defense, pending what it looks like post DC change, their defense doesn't look like anything special. I was at the Horseshoe last week and got the full field view of Ohio State's secondary and coverage, and along with the pass rush, just lots and lots of problems on that side of the ball. All right. Mississippi State, coached by Mike Leach, gets Memphis, coached by Ryan Silverfield. We get to see something with this. I'm interested. Where is this Mississippi State offense going to shake out this season? They really struggled at points last year. Of course, after torching LSU, they have been decent, at avoiding negative drives thus far. But a lot of their other numbers in limited data don't really stand out all that much. You, of course, see the run-pass split that you expect from a Mike Leach coached offense. They are going to have to get it going into SEC play. This Memphis defense has given up a lot of points already to Arkansas State. And you can talk yourself into Arkansas State being a well-coached team with a pretty good quarterback. And also, they're doing a QB rotation, and the backup ain't bad either. But this Memphis team, they gave up almost, 50 points to Arkansas State on the road. They've struggled. You can put together long drives against this Memphis defense, coached by Mike McIntyre, former Colorado head coach, and former Ole Miss defensive coordinator for one season. They have struggled in particular at forcing 3 and outs and not giving up long drives. A little bit better at containing the big plays. Not a big run pass split for them, but they're going to definitely be tested in the passing game here today. Flip it around. Memphis's offense is coached by Kevin Johns. And they flipped it around and put up a ton of points on Arkansas State. I really am excited because I still think Memphis has a pretty good group of 5 offense. I don't know that they're quite where they were when Mike Norvell was there, but that's a pretty high standard to get to. They're offensively right now, their drive efficiency, they've been able to put together long drives for points. They've been pretty explosive. And they've, if you look at the underlying numbers here, as we go down, underneath the model numbers that are still waiting in projection data, which is like the overall offensive number. Memphis might be a little better than we expect offensively. We'll see. No big run pass split for them. Defensively, Mississippi State, Zach Arnett, I thought he did a really good job getting this defense back into, a decent range last year. They returned a lot, projected to be pretty good coming into this year. What they've struggled with is play efficiency, giving up yards per play, controlling for opponent and field position. Again, limited data, limited number of opponents. That said, their other numbers are pretty good. Their negative drives, forcing 3 and outs and turnovers, not giving up long drives. They could certainly work on not giving up big plays. No big run pass split. That's where, I want to see this. I think Memphis has a pretty good, competent offense. What do they do today? That's going to tell us a lot about Mississippi State's defense coming into this season, which I think is a question too. I think for the Bulldogs, after last year, what do they have in this defense with Zach Arnett? Is it a top 20 defense? If it is, that could be a really good sign, I think, because I do think this Memphis offense is going to end up this season maybe in the top 30. So this will be a good test. We'll get to figure out a lot about the Bulldogs defense today. I'm forgetting to tell you guys the you can find the point spreads and win probabilities. I'm rolling through at the moment, trying to get this done, get up and then I'll get the kids some lunch. So this is what I get. This is what I get for forgetting to turn on my mic and have an entire video wasted. Arizona State, coached by Herm Edwards at Kalani Sitake's BYU Cougars, coming off a big win, ending a 9-year drought against BYU. Against Utah. The offense for Arizona State's really interesting to me. Coached by Zach Hill, we haven't seen them, I think, open up the bag. And I think this even goes back a little bit to last year. We haven't seen them necessarily open up the bag a lot. Jaden Daniels has a little bit of a downfield accuracy issue, but he generally makes good decisions with the football. He's a lot like Anthony Brown in that sense. And I'm interested to see what they do, because they haven't really pushed the ball downfield with him thus far this season in either of their games. Whether they're saving, those plays to roll them out against the Cougars or not, they certainly didn't need them against Southern Utah or UNLV. I think what's really interesting is last season ASU started to you started to see the signs that the offensive line that they had really needed to patch together 2 years ago was starting to show some signs that they had started to put it together. And they were able to run the ball really effectively. They have a talented wide receiver group. What does it look like? I mean, we haven't seen Daniels really have to flex out and throw the football. One of the interesting things, because their offensive numbers right now, because the competition has been awful, don't look great. Their adjusted offensive numbers controlling for, a very limited number of opponents who are very, very bad aren't great. But they really do run the football really well. One of the things they did last week, which we haven't seen them do, is they ran Daniels. He's been, they haven't in the past run Jaden Daniels a lot. And that is going to be interesting to see in this game here. If they are struggling to get the passing game going, do they run Daniels to kind of add an extra dimension in against this BYU defense? This BYU defense, for the most part, shut down Utah's passing game last week. Utah's offensive line really struggled in pass pro, and Brewer took a little too long on his reads, and on top of that, and that was not a good combination at all for the Utes. They've done some of these numbers here, though. They're numbers for drive efficiency and explosive drives and play efficiency and negative drives thus far. They're weighted by getting an Arizona team that did put up some yards on them, particularly throwing the football around, and then Arizona absolutely bombed against San Diego State. So small sample size issues here for the Cougs. I don't think this is some sort of world-beating defense for what they did to the Utes last week. The Utes did turn the ball over 2 times. That certainly helped BYU considerably, but they don't have a really big run pass split here. Again, I think that they have a very active defensive front. We haven't seen, ASU have to do a lot of pass blocking. The offensive line, we think, has made strides. Does it hold up in this game? We'll see. I mean, I like ASU to be able to put up some points in this game. I think they're going to be the most talented offense that BYU has faced up to this point. Flip it around on the other side of the ball. Aaron Roderick's your offensive coordinator for BYU. They had a decent game against Utah, but it was really mostly driven by Hall's legs. Hall's the quarterback. He started out on the roster as a running back. Really, really talented athlete. You could see here with their effective rush versus their effective pass numbers, they haven't really put it together as a passing offense yet. They've struggled to put up big plays here. They're a little bit better at drive efficiency, putting together long drives to be able to put up points. Certainly, they've been better with the run. They were able to set the edge and get outside on Arizona in a way that they really weren't necessarily. They had to grind a bit against the Utes, and it was really Hall's legs that provided the difference. Defensively, ASU, we think, is going to have a pretty good defense, coached by Marvin Lewis as your DC here. The overall numbers, of course, are terrible because they faced terrible competition up to this point. So this game will help us slot in ASU a lot better. But something to keep an eye on here is they have forced some 3-and-outs and turnovers with that negative drives number. They're better against the pass than they've been against the run up to this point. But I think this defense has a shot to be really good. They return a lot. This game, if ASU doesn't turn the ball over, I think they should likely win this game. They are the more talented team. They're more talented than Utah and Arizona, certainly. And Daniels is going to bring something to the table that certainly Gunnar Cruz didn't, or Charlie Brewer with his ability to move and add an extra dimension in. All right. Mike Gundy and company traveled to visit Boise. Everyone should visit Boise. It's really nice. Kind of out of the way, but I grew up in Wyoming. Out of the way, sort of part and parcel. Andy Avalos is your head coach for the Boise State Broncos. Mike Gundy's offense, coached by Casey Dunn. The one thing that jumps out at me, I mean, again, like Oklahoma State this is going to be a little bit of a step up in competition for them. I'm excited to see this game because they really struggled. Sean Gleason, when he came over, the offense didn't work. They ran the ball. I mean, they did run the ball pretty effectively, but overall their offensive rank really fell. Now you have Casey Dunn. You can look down at that run pass split down there. They are trying to throw the football more. Dunn, has his roots more in the full sort of air raid, or air raid-esque offense that they ran before. More of a wide open passing game. I like Dunn's chances. I just think the limiting factor might be Spencer Sanders. I don't think he's a particularly good quarterback. So we'll get to see a bit in this game. This is a chance I would toss out. I mean, I wouldn't toss out, but like some of their numbers up here, they're going to adjust up significantly with the step up in competition here. Boise State's defense, they have some really good numbers so far against limited competition again. But their numbers are against, UCF, a team that the model in the small amounts of, number of games it has with opponents in it, thinks is pretty good. Boise State's defense is coached by, I need to turn that page, Spencer Danielson. They've done a pretty good job so far. No big run pass split. This is going to be a bigger test for them, I think, in a lot of cases. I mean, UCF got it done, but UCF isn't some offensive juggernaut under Malzahn. I think that they're going to, Malzahn has some things to figure out with his offense right now, I think, still. Anyway, as they just blew that game in Louisville last night. I mean, Louisville certainly improving under Scott Satterfield, but it's disappointing to see, anyway. This should be a good game. The thing to keep an eye on here, though, is Oklahoma State able to move the football through the air here? If they are, and Boise State's going to be a step up defensively from what they've been facing, then you should have a little bit of confidence. I think Sanders is a bit of a limiting factor offensively for them. So keep an eye on that in this game. On the other side of the football, Boise State's coached by Tim Plow. This offense is not bad. I mean, by the standards of where Boise's often been hit, and isn't bad so far right now. Just keep an eye. They put up a lot of big plays with Hank Backmeyer at quarterback. Big run pass split. They've really been able to throw the football around. They're going to get a big test today because Jim Knowles last season, Oklahoma State's defense was really the backbone of the team. They took a step forward that we thought, we weren't sure that they were ever going to sort of make. But they've struggled a little bit more this season in the limited data. Again, not against great competition. So this is going to tell us something about where the Pokes sit too. But, they've been a little bit vulnerable to, long drives getting put together, relatively speaking, relative to their other numbers, their negative drives numbers, a little more solid, forcing 3 and outs and turnovers. You're going to want to get pressure on Backmeyer. You're not going to want to let him sit back there all game, but they've been pretty good against the pass. So I'm excited. This should be a really, really good matchup. We've got it as a real toss up, between these two teams with Boise State at home. This should be a real fun game. Just figuring, I think for both of these teams that don't slot in terribly far apart from each other, which of these teams might have a shot. I don't think that the Big 12 is overwhelmingly difficult. Iowa State certainly stubbed their toe with just some really terrible luck against Iowa. But they don't look as intimidating as they did last season thus far. And certainly Oklahoma looks pretty good, but I don't want to open it up and say like the Big 12 looks wide open, but TCU gave up a bunch of points to Cal. There's certainly some cracks in the armor and some of the other teams you might have slotted ahead of the Cowboys. This is an opportunity for us to see them against some quality competition for the first time. And I'm excited to see, in particular for this offense. It's just perplexing to see Mike Gundy coach team really struggling on offense. And Casey Dunn put his time in. Absolutely deserves to succeed. Somebody you want to root for. Such a good position coach for the wide receivers for so long for the Cowboys. So let's wrap it up. That is it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm just going to go right into... Thank you so much for tuning in. You can see all the stats you saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bauer, and again, you can find me at BetaRankFB or at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes for that at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Radio. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the football games out there. I'll be tuning in throughout the day. In particular, after I get my son to sleep, I'll be up for Pac-12 After Dark. And then tomorrow, beta rank numbers will be updated before 9. It looks like it'll be about. It'll be interesting for Illinois. It'll be 100% in-season data tomorrow because they will have 4 games against FBS competition. If you have 3 games, it'll be around 56% in-season data and about 25% in-season data for those with 2 games against FBS competition. Hoping for next week to go full on 100% everyone in for in-season data. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you out there.